so delighted and bring me great joy to be here with Deacon Brown. We're interviewing on Thursday, July the 19th. We're at the NORA headquarters, and we're going to take the opportunity for Deacon Brown to introduce himself, say his full name, his title, and how he affiliated with NORA.
Okay. Hi, my name is Deacon William M. Brown Sr. I'm affiliated with NOAA through community organizing. I am one of the core leaders for NOAA, dealing with racial justice and social justice. And I'm not sure what else you want.
Okay. Let's just go ahead and start the interview because we're so excited about you taking your opportunity to allow us to do this.
Thank you.
We just wanted just to start off with saying your full name.
Again.
William
M. Brown Sr.
William Brown Sr.
Yes.
Okay. And we want to know how, the first question, tell me about yourself and the history of your family.
Okay. A little bit about myself is, like I said, I'm Deacon William M. Brown, a member of New Covenant Lutheran Church in East Cleveland, Ohio. A little bit about my family.
Yes.
And about myself. I'm a very passionate person, dealing with community issues, church issues. I'm a proud father of 3 adults. And I have 12 grandkids.
Great.
Born and raised in Cleveland. I live in Euclid, Ohio now, but I'm a member of New Covenant Lutheran Church. I've been there for 41 years. I grew up in East Cleveland. Back in the early 60s, my family moved into East Cleveland, and I moved out once I got married and went to the service and came back into the area. And I've been at the church now for 41 years.
What brought your family to East Cleveland? How did this start? What was the pattern to get to East Cleveland?
Oh, that's a good story. I like that. What happened was is my parents had bought a house in Cleveland, and we stayed with my uncle, lived upstairs, and we stayed downstairs, and that was on Thornhill in Cleveland. And was trying to better ourselves as a family. And my father seen the opportunity to move into East Cleveland back in the early 60s. And at that time, East Cleveland was a predominantly white community. And it was a way that he felt he was bettering his family by moving into East Cleveland. And at the time, East Cleveland was a thriving suburb. Very excited about moving into East Cleveland. Didn't understand what was going to happen once we got here, but it was a beautiful time.
When you mentioned, so your family was from the South, correct?
Yes, from.
And what was the person or particular incident that brought you to East Cleveland? How did you know Cleveland? What was the thriving point to get here to Cleveland?
Well, my father was raised in Tuscumbia, Alabama. Okay. One of 13 children. We have always, we didn't know that we had any issues with racism, but it was there. My father's family was part of owner of at that time it was like a pharmacy, had the soda shop and everything. Tuscumbia, Alabama is the home of Helen Keller, and it was a place that my father grew up in, and they were very successful as a young black family. My grandmother was raised as a slave, but she was in the house, so she didn't have it as bad as most people did. She was in the house taking care of the family, cooking, cleaning, and it was a very good time. Once my father graduated from high school, we had my uncles that came up, and some of them came up to Cleveland, uncle and 2 aunts, and came up to Cleveland. I had uncle go up to Chicago, and another uncle stay in Alabama, and aunts in Alabama. So my father, as being the second youngest of the family, decided he was following his brothers and sisters up to Cleveland. And they came to Cleveland because they was looking for a better life, coming from the South.
Okay. So with your father had other siblings, so they split up between Cleveland and Detroit, correct?
Cleveland and Chicago.
Tell me a little bit about your grandmother was a slave. That's an interesting point that I think that you need to bring out.
Well, she told us stories about how she actually had to go in and take care of the people in the house. You know, she just felt like she just grew up in times that were just a little hard, you know, and but she survived it. She was able to be successful and raise her kids. Like I said, she married my grandfather, Tom Brown. He was a very light complected man from the South, and their own businesses, and that's how, you know, from her coming out of Alabama and coming up through slavery and things like that, she has been very inspirational in our lives to see how she dealt with things in her life.
So how old were you when your grandmother used to tell you the stories? And can you just tell us one story that was so significant to you?
She used to tell us when we were like 5 or 6 years old about how it was when she always used to take care of the people's houses that she grew up, I mean, that she was working in, and how good she had it, though. You know, she didn't complain. She just said that she was treated pretty decent.
And how old were your grandma? What was her age when she was telling you the stories?
At that time, she was probably in her, I would say probably 40s.
At least 40?
Yes, and she died at 95 years old.
But when she was telling you the stories, the slavery was over.
Yes, it was over, definitely.
So she survived, and she had 40 years of the memories that she passed along, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And she stayed in a household with the family.
Yes.
You remember? So you remember her telling y'all the story. Did she tell y'all the stories as a group or individual?
As a group, we would sit around. When we would go down and visit her, she would tell us the struggles that she had. She owned her own house down in the South, and at the time, that was something that was very inspirational. You know, because she was basically a homemaker, and she was going around after she left and everything was over with. She started working in people's homes as homemakers, and she just explained to us the story. If you've seen the movie Help, it seemed like that was part of her life, you know, that where she would go in and take care of other white families, and was able to survive with her family. I don't remember my grandfather being around much, but I know my grandmother worked and took care of people all her life.
Did your grandmother cook and be a part of the family that you can remember?
Yes, that's all she did. Yeah,
Definitely
cooked.
part of the family.
Yeah, she was a Cherokee Indian, black and Cherokee. So she was a very inspirational person in our lives.
And when you talked about your other siblings, how many total siblings do you have?
I have a sister, 3 total.
3 total?
Yes.
Okay. And do y'all still go back to Alabama?
Yes, I still go back.
You still go back?
Yes.
So your 3 family members, you stated y'all split up. Everybody didn't come to Cleveland.
My family, we all came, my siblings came from Cleveland. They were born and raised in Cleveland. But my father's siblings were split up and went to Chicago and Cleveland and Alabama.
What age were you when you came to Cleveland?
I lived here in Cleveland. I was born in Cleveland.
Okay, so you was born in Cleveland.
Yeah, I was actually born in Cleveland.
When you actually was born in Cleveland, what side of town did you stay
on? I was on Arthur on the east side of 105. I was born at Mount Sinai Hospital.
Okay. And with you being born in Cleveland, what was your focus point, or who was the initiative to get you here to East Cleveland?
Well, it was my father's initiative. He worked for Reliance Electric and he had got promoted, and he seen that he had opportunity to leave Cleveland and what he thought was better in his family by moving into East Cleveland. And it was a great experience.
Great experience.
Yeah.
You were guesstimate what age or what year?
I was in the third grade, so I would say probably 9, somewhere around there.
Around 9 years.
Yeah, no, that's probably not right. In that third grade, 8 or 9.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. My second question is, can you think back to your earliest memory of East Cleveland and tell me what life was like then?
Oh, well, when we moved on 6th Avenue in East Cleveland, life was good. I had neighbors to both sides of me that were white, that we enjoyed each other. You know, it was a good experience. We used to play up and down the street, walk up to at Mayfair Elementary School at that time, played football, basketball, and we ran track, and we had a good time. And it was always a good experience. It was weird because I had my neighbors stay next door to me that were Hell's Angel members, and we had always had fear about what the Hell's Angels were. But when I had one of their members living next door to us, it was like they accepted us like we were just, another family.
Can you tell me what Hell's Angels mean?
Hell's Angels was a motorcycle group, a white motorcycle group. They're still around, and people feared them because they had a reputation of being an outlaw motorcycle gang. But I found them not to be that way. The headquarters are here in Cleveland. Ironically, on 68 in St. No, about 80 something in St. Clair.
So they still up and around?
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Okay. So with you being in East Cleveland on 6th Avenue, and was that a home y'all lived in?
Yes.
Okay. And you said that you had fond memories of the home?
Yes.
It was a normal day for you?
Yeah, normal day. Both
Normal
parents
day.
at home. Mother never worked. My father worked 12-hour days to supply for his family because he worked at Reliance Electric. My whole family actually worked at Reliance Electric. My uncles, my aunts, my cousin, and he got the opportunity to advance his family, and we moved in East Cleveland. Thought that was the best thing we ever did.
And with you playing with the kids in the community, your elementary school, was that walking distance?
Yes, it was right on the corner.
Right on the corner.
Yeah, I was like the fourth house from the corner, and the school was right across the street on Hayden, 6th Street and Hayden.
Is it still up now?
Yeah,
Still up?
Mayfair's still up, yes.
Okay. And was there a playground in the area?
Yeah, it was a playground there. At that time, we had a lot of apartment buildings in the area. Up and down Hayden was a lot of apartment buildings that are no longer there. They build housing now, but at that time it was apartment buildings, and we had a good time. We were able to go up to the park, Forest Hill Park, which is a Rockefeller Park that was donated to the city of East Cleveland and Cleveland Heights, and we could go up there, and they had horseback riding. They had a lot of things that we could do, and it was a good time. We also had an opportunity to go down on Shaw and Hayden. At that time, we had a theater. We had a little candy store next door called Mary's Sweet Shop, and we used to look forward to, as kids, to go to the theater and see different movies, and we take our little pennies and buy our penny candy, and it was a good time.
And this was on Hayden? Hayden
Yes.
had a full theater?
At Shaw and Hayden, you had a theater there.
Okay.
You had a theater, you had a hardware, you had Great Drug Store, you had a Save More's here, we had a Buy Right. We had a lot of things going on Hayden at that time.
So it was a valuable resource for the business. Which businesses
Yes.
are there today in 2012?
Today, not really anything in that area. A lot of churches that survived. The grocery stores, the ones that were in that area, Save More's, which was on close to actually Garden and Hayden, closed up, and also had a Bondi's, which is directly across the street from my church on Hayden. That address is like I think it's 1419 Hayden, and they're closed up. And right, it's ironic that both of them are churches now. Well, one of them is a church, and the Seymour's down on Garden is an empty, vacant building that the county owns.
The county owns.
Yes.
And what year were the businesses up and valuable for the community, and the theater and the grocery store? What year was this, you think, the peak time?
The 60s, early 60s, 70s were very predominant in that area. I remember when Hot Sauce Williams opened up their restaurant at actually on Scioto and Hayden, what used to be a Gulf gas station. We had 2 gas stations there too. And at that time, we had a Gulf gas station, which was a black-owned gas station. And in the early 60s and 70s, that was ironic, because you didn't have many business owners. And I also had an uncle that owned a gas station on Euclid Avenue, a Shell gas station, right next to Shaw High School.
Would you say that during that period of time, that was one of the best years in the 60s and 70s for businesses, and you can leave from your home and go directly to the businesses without going out the neighborhood, without going out of East Cleveland?
Yeah, you could. It's ironic. I'll tell this story. It was we moved into East Cleveland, and I told this at one of our meetings that we just previously had. Well, I remember as a young kid when we moved in, they had told my father that he needed to put new sidewalks in and new driveways in. And so he thought that was kind of ironic. He had just moved into the area. The house had been approved through the bank. And the first thing the housing department do is come in and tell my father that he had to put in a new driveway and a sidewalk. So he complied and he did it. And every night that he would park on the street, he would get a ticket. So he couldn't figure out why he was getting a ticket. Well, East Cleveland has a law on the book today that at 3 o'clock in the morning, there's not supposed to be any cars on the street. They just do not enforce the law. And so he had to go up to City Hall and talk to the police department and tell them that he was going to be parked on the street in order to get permission to have his car out in front of his own house, which the city told him to put in a driveway and a sidewalk. So that's one memory that I have. And also of Judge DeVinny ruled East Cleveland with an iron fist. Blacks didn't come in East Cleveland in the early 60s and 70s because we had a judge that did not allow blacks to come into what he quoted his city and bring down what he felt was the quality of the city when blacks moved in. So
that was his reputation? Or
that was his life.
Okay.
If you came in East Cleveland and you didn't live there, he took it personally, that if you're driving through East Cleveland and you were black, you were going to get stopped by the East Cleveland police.
Okay. So you knew this, or someone told you? Or
no,
you
this
felt
is fact.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me just lead on to my next question. What are your fondest memories of East Cleveland?
My fondest memory is growing up as a kid, having a happy-go-lucky life, delivering newspapers, working at the Seymour's, delivering. At that time, we used to take the ad papers that you would go around. We'd walk up to the corner, and they would pay us. At that time, I think it was like $15, and we'd walk the streets of East Cleveland and pass out the flyers for whatever sales was going on that week. It was just a good time. We had a lot of things going on there.
When you mentioned passing out the newspaper, was it a group of people, or was it just your people in your area, or y'all just met and
What we would do was weekly we would go up to Seymour's at the time and buy rights, and they would take so many kids and so many adults, and the adults would drive the kids around through the neighborhood, and we would pass out whatever advertisement they would have for whatever sales was on for that week. We had a good time. We really had a good time, and you could walk up to the corner. And then I remember, like I say, when Hot Sauce Williams moved into the area, and they had ribs, and we can get ribs and shrimp, and it was a very good time. And we also had one of our first black-owned little shops was Vipco back in the early 70s, and we were able to go there and get all our candy and and things that we wanted then. We had in that time we had I know of at least 4 black entrepreneurs in East Cleveland, and that was at that time that was very inspirational.
Which stores were there, the 4 black entrepreneurs?
You had a golf gas station. You had Vipco, Hot Sauce Williams. Like I said, I had an uncle that owned the Shell gas station up at Shaw and Hayden. You also had Boyd's Funeral Home that was here. You had, let's see, I can go on. You had a Sunoco dealership on Euclid down near Wadena that was black owned. The Millers owned that, which was a cousin of mine too. It's just, it was a good time. You had Cummings and Davis. You also had at that time Joy Jordan's father, Jordan Dental Center, was here. You had a lot of businesses, but a lot of blacks that came in East Cleveland and started up businesses.
Are those businesses, would you say, is up at the same level as you can remember?
No.
Were they passed along from generation to generation?
The Hot Sauce Williams ended up moving out after they had a fire in the building, and they never did anything there, but they went down and bought, which was a great drugstore, made it into what they call the Q5, and that's where they could go in, and we had dances at the Q5, and it was a good time.
Good time.
And then I remember as a young kid at our church, which was St. James Lutheran Church, Lutheran housing that started there. At the time, we had a huge church, and we had a large congregation, and it was just inspirational to see how Lutheran housing started at our church, and they're still in existence today.
Would you say the businesses that you just mentioned, do you know any of them that was passed along to the kids or someone in the family to keep the business moving forward, or are they just closed or went to another?
Well, Vipco ended up selling his business out, and he sold to an Arab eventually. And Hot Sauce Williams moved in over to 123rd and off of St. Clair. The Shell gas station, my uncle sold to one guy that used to work for him, and he still owns the business today. Art owns the business at the Shell gas station, and E.F. Boyd and Wallace Davis with Cummings and Davis, and the Jordan Dental Center is still going. A lot of the businesses are still here, the black-owned businesses.
Okay. Are you pleased with how the businesses are ran today compared to when you were growing up in your 30s and 40s? Are you pleased with it?
I would say what businesses are left, yes. We just find it hard to compete sometimes, you know, with the way society is now. The funeral homes are doing good because it's a lot of death in the black community, and which is sad. But I mean, Boyd doesn't have any problem with his business, and I know Wallace Davis is still doing pretty good as the ex-mayor with Davis's funeral home, Cummings and Davis. That's probably the biggest tragedy that I see today. Funeral business is great, you know, but black businesses in East Cleveland now are probably, you don't have as many, you know. Okay. We let I would say the Arabs come in and buy up all our stores and take over most of the businesses that the blacks owned in East Cleveland.
Does that sadden you?
Oh, yes, it does. I mean, because, you know, we fight to advance our families, and then we look up and people come in from other countries and can afford to buy up all the gas stations and all the stores, and it's really sad. And I remember in East Cleveland to where we had decent grocery stores. You know, we didn't have to worry about healthy foods as we do now. I mean, it was really tragic to see that you have 2 grocery stores in East Cleveland now, and I'm not sure they're up to par with selling food into the community. And that's really sad because we used to have good quality food here, and people was proud to be in East Cleveland. I mean, I stick my chest out. We have a lot of prosperous people that came out of East Cleveland. And I think that's something we always need to uplift, professional football players, comics. We had a lot of people come in and graduate from Shaw High School and doing very well with themselves. And even the band when I was in high school traveled all over the United States. Shaw Band was known all over the United States.
And Shaw Band has always been at the same level of quality that's being known?
No, actually in the early 70s and 80s I would say yeah, and then the band dropped off probably in the early 90s. They didn't have as many people in the band. The band shrunk. The band at one time probably was about 125, 30 members. And now I think, they still were able, up under the direction of Alvin Fulton at the time, in the early 70s, the band traveled to Jamaica and they were all over the country. And I'm proud that our band ended up being in the Olympics a few years ago. And it was a very small part of the band, but they still making East Cleveland proud because they look at East Cleveland and think that they don't have anything here but a bunch of kids that don't care about nothing. It was just inspirational to see our kids go to China and how the community got behind them and did fundraisers to send our kids to China.
So that was a proud moment for you?
Oh yes, I stuck my chest out. Really? Yeah, definitely.
Great. Let me lead to the next question. It's a two-part question. In what ways has the city changed over time?
Wow, just look at what I grew up in when we had all the businesses. Back in the early 70s, 60s, we had so many businesses in East Cleveland. You had 3 or 4 dealerships, Spitzer Ford, C. Miller, Wick Lincoln Mercury. There were big dealerships in East Cleveland. You had a lot of businesses that was in East Cleveland at the time. And you had a good tax base. And the city was being blamed for blacks moving into the city. Was supposed to be in the decline of the city, and when that's not true. We had white flight, and all the businesses got up and left. And back in the early 60s when we had the Huff riots, and then we had the Glenville riots. Well, Glenville was a neighboring community in Cleveland, of East Cleveland, so once the riots happened in 63 and 64, they came in East Cleveland telling all the white owners that, you guys better sell your houses because the blacks are moving in and they riding right down the street. So they came in and put a lot of fear into the community. And you look up and a lot of real estate companies was running in telling people to sell their houses, and people got scared because they put this fear in their hearts that, hey, you better move because all these blacks are moving into the area and it's time to get out of here, cut your losses and move out, And when that happened, a lot of the businesses started leaving. You didn't have any, when you don't have a tax base in your city and people moving into the city that's had decent incomes, but they were renting and they wasn't paying any taxes in the city. And when you lose your tax base, then your city has to fail because you don't have anybody putting any money back into the community. We thank God that GE is still around in East Cleveland because General Electric was at Needler Park was world known for their Christmas displays and light bulbs, and they had factories on Ivanhoe in Cleveland, and they had East Cleveland up on Noble Road, and that was a business that's still here today. Not as big as it used to be, but they're still in the community.
When you talk about the tax base, with just an interesting point that you brought up, how do you know, or what triggered you to understand the tax base, being in business?
In business, working at my uncle's gas station as a teenager, and seeing how businesses was actually run. It was you see how the community changed because you watch how people start running away, and you see everybody moving in, but they were just letting anybody move into the community, and they sold a lot of houses to people that really probably couldn't afford them. Overinflated. we dealing with that today. You know, how they come in and you find a young black family that want to move up, so they go sell them a house that's probably worth $40,000, and you go and make a bank loan for $85,000, and you look up and wonder why you can't afford the house when you overpaid for it, because mortgage companies gave them a little money on the side in order to move into the houses.
And the second part of the question is, what do you think contribute to those changes? I know you mentioned about went from owning to renting. Can you elaborate on more or give me another perspective on how do you think, or what do you think contribute to those changes? What do you think contribute to those changes?
Well, we had a lot of things that contribute to the changes. Like I say, it was fear was one of them. The biggest thing I think that would contribute to the changes is just telling people they need to get out of the community, and then everybody start leaving, and you stop having the money in the community to afford housing inspectors, and you had housing inspectors that would come in and they would go into your house once a year and tell you everything you had to do to keep up your home. And as the city started losing tax dollars, they start cutting areas that they needed to keep the community vibrant. They got rid of housing inspectors. They got rid of people that would come in and, they would come in and tell you had to put up gutters, you had to paint your house, you had to put in a driveway, a sidewalk, or plumbing, and they just got away from it.
Okay, and when you mentioned too with the changes, that was just one of them, because they reinforced the rules and regulations on how to keep the house up. And when you went to the rental status, people didn't keep it up, or the quality went down. Which one? Well,
people didn't keep it up, and the city didn't make them keep it up. They did not enforce it.
Okay.
The city should have enforced the housing codes. They used to do that, and they just got away from it. They got lazy. We started putting people in office that didn't have the best interests of the city.
Okay.
We did not pick good community leaders. And there was a lot of things going against us. We had a lot of people that were actually probably plotting against East Cleveland because they had other alternatives of what they wanted to do with East Cleveland. There was a big plan in East Cleveland back in the early 60s and 70s to redevelop the area. And that's where I remember how Hayton used to be a straight street, and it became crooked because of the plan that they were going to redevelop the Hayton area, and Shaw and Hayton, and down near Windermere they ended up building the RTA bus station. Back then it was CTS, Cleveland Transit System. See, I'm dating myself. And and they ended up putting their headquarters in East Cleveland. That was another thing that happened with East Cleveland when they're part of the redevelopment.
Okay. Leading next to the next question is, and it's a two-part question, how has race or racism impacted you personally?
Myself, I think racism, I see it, what it happened to the city. When we had people come in and tell them, here the black people are moving into the area, that you need to run around and get out of the area. And so the racism was there back when I grew up in East Cleveland, because they didn't want us in the area. They didn't think that we were worthy of living in East Cleveland. And how it affected me, I can even give examples on my job. I am a shift manager, process manager at ArcelorMittal Steel Company, and I am one of black shift managers that we have in the plant, and we have a total of probably 27 of them, and it's just two that I know of, the shift managers, and that's racism. I've been on my job for 33 years, and it's just dealing with it every day. We deal with racism every day. I never forget when I was in the service, I was stationed at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, the 101st Airborne Division. And as a young man, I was transferred to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And I went from Fort Campbell and drove to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And the directions they gave me as a young man at 18, 19 years old was to get on this highway that they had in North Carolina. It was called the All-American Highway. Well, I found out that I wasn't All-American when I was on this highway before it opened up on this big opening on Monday, and I got stopped by one of the state troopers, and I was in full uniform, and he pulled me over and he said, hey, boy, he said, what are you doing on this highway? And I thought I was being polite, said, sir, you know, I'm a United States soldier. Here's my orders, bring me from Fort Campbell to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And I didn't know this highway was closed. These are the directions I got. And I said, but if you look on the highway, all these cars are here from North Carolina. I'm sitting here with a Tennessee license plates on and uniform. And never had been called a boy before in my young adult life. So it kind of ticked me off when I told him, I said, well, you know, I'm from Ohio and grew up in Ohio. I've never been called a boy before. And he looked at me and he said, well, boy, you're in North Carolina now. We don't play that mess down here. And I said, well, sir, if you call me boy one more time, you're going to have to call for some help. At that time, I didn't respect the state trooper because, like I said, I'd never been called a boy before. And that was something that just threw me aback. And at the time, I was probably a little reluctant to being called that. And that was a time that I'll never forget. That was racism when I was in the United States Army in uniform and thought I was serving my country. And I found out that the South at that time was very racist, and that was in actually 1977.
In 1977.
Mm-hmm. And as a kid, we had racism in East Cleveland. Like I say, Judge Devaney. This guy ruled with iron fists. You know, he just would not, you know, tolerate things happening in East Cleveland. I think he tried to do his best, but he was a very racist judge. You know, but they said he was a fair man, but I never saw that part of him. You know.
And how has that impacted the city of East Cleveland? I know you mentioned concerning the judge. How has race and racism impacted the city of East Cleveland?
Well, the racism is because the dollars that was should have been coming into the city wasn't coming into the city. They figured because it was a black community that they didn't want to invest any money in East Cleveland. And like I say, then we start picking politicians that we thought had the best interests of our people and putting them in offices, and to find out that they were just got greedy and took advantage of a lot of black people, because we thought if we started putting our own people in office as councilmen and mayors, they would change things. And that's probably my biggest disappointment, to see how, which should have been a very prosperous time, that we end up, some of our leaders that we put in office did not have the best interests of our people when they took office. They might have started off that way, but the corruption got to them, and they let the city just go down. And it was, I don't want to mention names because that's not, you know, politically correct.
When you mentioned that the corruption started getting to the people, how did you know that, or did you feel the corruption affecting the people that were in office? Can you give me an example of that? Without mentioning any names?
Well, I will not mention any names, but back in the early 70s and stuff, you seen how when somebody wanted to do business in East Cleveland, you start hearing about the taxes they had to pay to certain individuals in order to come in. A black company would come in and want to do some of the work in East Cleveland, and they had to pay these taxes and get bonded and insured and end up having to pay what they dues or to actually do business in East Cleveland. So that was something that I know I witnessed, and I just think once we had the white flight, and I don't know why people were so scared, you know, of African American blacks moving into their community. The people that did move into the community when I was growing up were looking out for the best for their families. They took care of the yards. They made sure that the grass was cut, and houses was painted, and it was, I think, just a different mindset of the people that's been in East Cleveland forever. You start getting another generation in that didn't really care about East Cleveland, didn't know anything about East Cleveland, didn't realize how proud of people it was to live in East Cleveland. You know.
When you mentioned also before the East Cleveland had rules and regulations and they enforced them, and then at one point they did not enforce them.
Well, they don't enforce it now. The laws are still on the books to this day. They just don't enforce them. You know, our housing codes are still on the book. Not parking on the streets are still on the books at 3 o'clock in the morning. We just don't enforce them. We have all the rules are still there. We don't have housing inspectors, so how can you come in and maintain, you know, your community when you don't even have qualified housing inspectors?
And you can remember the housing inspector coming to your community, and then now they're not coming at this time.
Well, they have one, but I don't consider him a housing inspector, but I don't want to get into that either, because that could be another, I don't want to be liable for something.
Let me lead on to the next question. It says, how has inequality impacted you personally?
Inequality as far as what?
How the inequality example.
Oh, inequality.
Correct.
Oh,
How
okay.
does that impact you personally?
I've seen how at being at the church, like I say, St. James Lutheran Church for all the years, I just seen how at one time, like I say, we were proud and to as a young man to have a youth group that I ended up buying the first van for our church, and we realized that, you know, at that time we had clout because we would go out and work for everything we had, and then the equality started happening when people just start leaving and not coming into a community and don't care about it, didn't have any passion for the city, and didn't realize. I didn't, you know, I failed to mention that we had an ice skating ring on Shaw. You know, we used to go ice skating, you know, as a kid, but it just, the equality of funds coming into the city, it's just really sad. Like I said, you have to run a city, you have to have money. If you don't have money in the city, I don't care what you're doing. You're hearing about today how cities are going bankrupt because you don't have any dollars coming into your city.
So when we mentioned the inequality of the impact you personally, the second part of the question, how has that impacted the city? I know you mentioned money to flow, to increase, to keep things flowing.
Yes, like I said, if you don't have, you got services in your city that you need to do, garbage collection, you know, just basic city government. If you don't have the funds to do it, your police department, I mean, your fire department, if you don't have money to pay for firemen and policemen, and you have people that take jobs that really care about East Cleveland, but they're looking to get a paycheck, you know, it's sad. And when you have a police force that's probably not as big as it needs to be, and we have the crime that we have in East Cleveland, and we have a police department that's ineffective, you know, truthfully. I mean, I think that if you don't have the police there, and then you bring in the sheriff's department and, you know, other county officials, and I'm not sure that they do the city any good, because they don't care about East Cleveland. You don't live in East Cleveland, you know.
And you remember when the police department, fire department, and the departments were up and running and valuable for the community, and you see a dip in the services?
Well,
now?
what happened is your policemen used to live in East Cleveland, your firemen used to live in East Cleveland, and you had people that cared about the city because they lived in the city. I think it's great that our police chief is a Shaw High graduate, you know, that's still in the community. You know, I think that's something we need to uplift, because, you know, he didn't have to be in the community.
Great. Let me lead on to the next question. Can you go back and remember the fondest memories of East Cleveland, something that happened that was really significant to you?
Like I said, going up in the park, Forest Hill Park used to be one of the beautiful parks that we had. We had a pond up there, and we had fish in there. We used to have a goldfish and go up, and they had horses up in the park. We had a little stable up there. It was a good time just playing up in the park. We had a beautiful park. It was well kept, and you go up there, you play basketball. We had tennis courts. We also had the pool at Shaw High School at Co-op Center to where we can go swim. I can even go back to the ice skating ring. Used to love to go to the ice skating ring, you know, and ice skate. These are things that to me at the time was very inspirational because you had something to do.
Yeah,
You know, you had a lot of things to do and had a lot of pride about what we did in East Cleveland. Like I say, and they had the band and following the band around. You had football teams that were very successful. Your basketball teams were very successful, and you had a lot of great athletes come out of Shaw High School.
So would you say during that period of time when it's a peak time and everything was very plenty of places to go for youth, you really didn't have to go out of East Cleveland at that point?
No, you really didn't have to. We spent most of our time in East Cleveland, or maybe Cleveland Heights, because it bordered East Cleveland, but it was always something to do.
Does Shaw have the swimming pool?
I don't believe they had a swimming pool anymore. They closed the swimming pool when they rebuilt the school.
Okay. What about the horses? They were horses.
Well, yeah, up at Forest Hills, you had a stable. You had a little stable up there where you had horses, and you could go up and it was like 3 or 4 horses. Like I say, the Rockefeller family donated to parks to East Cleveland, you know, and it was a good thing. I mean, we had plenty of times you walk around, you didn't have all the geese and stuff that you have now. The park, it wasn't as dirty as it is now, you know, but it was definitely a good time.
And you mentioned at one point the church name has changed, correct?
Yes.
What caused the change of church name?
What happened was we were St. James Lutheran Church, and we merged it with a church on Ashbury, which was Fellowship Lutheran Church, and that church was actually failing. In order to make sure that congregation didn't really close, we merged 2 congregations together. We merged St. James Lutheran Church and Fellowship Lutheran Church together. And when we did that, we wanted to make sure that we didn't want to lose our history, and they didn't want to lose theirs. So we felt the best thing to do was to change our name so we could be unified as one church. We had been in the area for 90-something years when we did this, so it was 2 churches giving up their identity to start something new.
And what year did both churches merge?
205.
In 205. How's it going today?
Great.
Okay.
We're the largest black Lutheran church in the state of Ohio.
Was the church that merged with you, were they in East Cleveland?
No, they were in Cleveland, 111th and Ashbury.
Okay. So you said that at this point you're the largest?
Yes, we're the largest black Lutheran church in the state of Ohio.
Okay, great. Just leading on to my next question, how has the surrounding institutions and city impacted East Cleveland?
The surrounding
Institutions like we have the University Circle.
Well, as we can see, that a lot of money going into University Circle, but that was a plan that was talked about. I remember in the early '90s about revitalizing the University Circle area. That's been talked about, and it just came to fruition because of what they wanted to do with the area. Everything that you used to have in East Cleveland now is going to be at University Circle. They're going to be putting a theater in at University Circle. They're putting all these little shops and bookstores, and it's just amazing that they're just a couple of miles down the road, and you're building up that area because you got Case Western Reserve, University Hospital, Cleveland Clinic in the area, and they're really pushing that area to be what East Cleveland used to be.
So you see the difference of the different business. You see in front of you that other areas are picking it up and developing it in their areas.
Yes.
So you, instead of bringing
the dollars in East Cleveland, they don't want to invest in East Cleveland.
Okay.
We have got them. Went to East Cleveland councilman and the mayor had went in and they down on Lakeview, and they said that they want to develop that end of East Cleveland with new housing and tear down some of the housings that were condemned, and they go in and they put up new housing, which is great. But you put a housing in that people in East Cleveland can't afford.
And when you mentioned also with the, the theater is coming up and other things that you would like for them to replace, correct?
Yes, but I mean, I want them in East Cleveland. I don't want them at University Circle.
Correct. When you mention the plans, that means that you were involved or you know this.
Yeah, my family's always been political in East Cleveland. My mother was campaign chairman for Wallace Davis. Been very active in the community all my life. My father was at St. James at the time, daily. When he got off work, we went to the church. We had dances at our church. We did a lot of things within the community. Always been politically motivated for change.
With your family being so much involved, that means that they knew the plans 5 or 10 years ahead of time, because in most cases plans
Right.
are 5 or 10 years ahead of time. Have your direct members or your direct family ran for any political office?
No, never ran for any offices, but worked at the Board of Education and did a lot of political things, like I say, from Mayor Wallace, well, better not use a lot of names, but the mayor's office and some of the council members and, you know, people like Mildred Brewer, you know.
What would you say to the young people now in 2012? What would you tell them how to get involved in the political scene and run for office? What advice, since your family was so involved in the political scene, what advice would you give them?
Take your community back. Stand up and take your community back and stop settling for everything that's going on in East Cleveland. Don't support a drug dealer. Don't, you know, just go in and show that you can do something positive. Get affiliated with a church or an organization that's trying to do something positive in the city. You don't have to stand on the corner. You can go out and don't depend on welfare. It's things you can do. Own your own businesses. Show them how to be entrepreneurs. Give them the tools. We have a lot of black entrepreneurs that they need to go in and let them mentor the kids.
Because you remember a time when this was just part of East Cleveland. The list of things that you just mentioned was part of East Cleveland, so you know it can be done. Is that
Oh yes,
correct?
it can be done. Yeah, definitely.
So since you know that can be done, would you like to have, or would you say that the young people should definitely get involved?
They have to get involved. If they don't, it was an old saying that either you stand for something or you fall for nothing, and that's something that, you know, that is very passionate, that we have to get our young people involved. We need our elders in our community to stay involved and understand how important they are to tell people about the history of East Cleveland and what East Cleveland used to be. A lot of people don't know about East Cleveland. They never experienced it, so they don't understand the passion that, you know, we have for East Cleveland. I think, you know, you have to live it in order to understand it, and I think we need to talk about our history and where we were, but everything is, it was great. It was good. I need to tell these young folks, hey, stand up and get involved and do something, and we need to show them that.
Well, if anything else, you have the golden opportunity to tell them now. Is there anything else you would like to tell them?
Yeah, let's get busy. Let's go in and get our community together. We have so many leaders that we can do. I always try to tell the young guys that I know that if they're doing something wrong or selling drugs, do you realize the opportunity that you're already a small businessman? You're not doing the right thing, but you can take those skills and turn your life around. If you can able to sell drugs on the corner, then you can sell other products and move your city forward. You don't have to be a detriment to the city. You can be something positive. And I think it's important that we need to tell them about other black entrepreneurs that they can get with and build the city up. I mean, because if you got the skills to move product, it doesn't matter what your product is. It's just going in and understanding of what significance you have. The black dollar is tremendous. And if we put it back in our communities, and just think if we supported all our black businesses, if we just took $1 and everybody just supported that business, the people in East Cleveland and surrounding areas come in and support a business. I mean, I think the money bond was a prime example of that. You know, that was something that was very inspirational. But we have other businesses that we should do the same thing with.
And the next leading question, which is great, what you just emphasized to us. What is your vision for a future for East Cleveland?
My vision is to see East Cleveland the way it was when I grew up, a very prosperous place, a very proud place. My vision is to bring back the theaters, bring back the ice skating ring. We never should have let them close our pool at Shaw High School. We should have a pool there. We need to have something for our kids to do. My vision is to give the kids something to do. They need to put down these Nintendos and these Wiis and get out of the house and run up and down the street and play. You lose all your interaction with people when you're sitting up playing a game all the time. And you play games that's a detriment because they're always telling you to kill something or hurt it, and then you become desensitized to what life is all about. You don't go out and play. I mean, I think the NFL talk about play 60. We need to do that every day. We need to just get out and let the kids play. They don't play anymore. You don't see kids playing baseball and football in the streets, you know, or even picking up a basketball game. And when we were kids, that's all we did: kickball or dodgeball or something. They don't play.
And the second part to the question is, tell me about a major issue that needs to be addressed in order to better our community, our neighborhood, and our city.
We have to go in and talk to our leaders about bringing money back into our community. We have to get people to invest in our community, that believes in our community. Talk to people like Bill Capp, that's been in the community forever and still selling pianos, and I don't know how he stays in business, but he does, and find out why he never left, and see what his passion is. You know, find out. What we need to do is just tell people to invest in our community. Come on back. Don't be afraid. You know, we can make it work. But like I said, we have to do it together, and we have to take back our community. We cannot keep standing for monies that's going to university circle throughout our county and state tax dollars that should be coming in East Cleveland. And we need to start demanding that we get some equality of the dollars that's out here. There's a lot of money out here that we don't see anything of it, you know. So we've got a casino now and going to build another one. So we need to go down there and talk to Dan Gilbert and his associates and say, let's put some money back in East Cleveland.
And another final question, and we have some other questions. What would you be prepared to do to participate in making East Cleveland better?
I'm participating now to make East Cleveland better, being part of NOAA, to go out and have unity, faith, diversity, and show the people that we have the power in order to go out and make our community a vibrant community again. Go out and demand of our elected officials to do their job. Talk to our county representatives, our state representatives about bringing the money back into East Cleveland. It takes money in order to rebuild a community, and it takes us as a unified force, all of us together. It's not going to just take me, it takes yourself or Noah in order to join together and be united. In order to take back our community, they got to see us stand up for something. And we have to be together. We have to be united. One person can't do it. One voice doesn't mean anything. But when you got 10, 15,000 people saying, hey, we want our community to be vibrant, we want tax dollars back in our community, that's where we stand strong. We have seen that over the time with Huron Road Hospital. They left, but they did bring money into the city. You know, it was $8 million, which is a lot of money at that time, but we let them off kind of light. You know, definitely. But
I have two questions for you, and then I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Brandon King to see if he has any questions for you. My two questions are, I know you mentioned and had a lot of emphasis on tax base, and you feel that the businesses need tax base to build, is that correct?
Businesses need, you have to have money in your community in order for it to function. You have businesses that needs to pay taxes. You need to we need to get rid of all the liquor stores, drug stores, and we need to put businesses in our community that's going to bring in a tax base. We need to bring in car dealerships. We need businesses that's going to generate an income. A liquor store is great for the person on the liquor store, but that's not putting a lot of money in the community. We need to bring jobs back into our community in order to to have the diversity that we say we want in our community. And in order to do that, you got to get rid of all of the, Save-A-Lot's great. If we can get Save-A-Lots or we got a bunch of Family Dollars and things like that, but that's not but a few jobs. We need major corporations to come in here and invest in East Cleveland and say, look, let's see what we can do, and just, trust in our people that they'll do the right thing, and give them the opportunity. We have so many people looking for jobs. We building homes for $300,000, but who can afford them?
And you mentioned also you are part of NOR. What is your position with NOR?
My position is one of the core leaders working for social justice. What I'm here for NOR is to go out and community organize, lend my talents any way I can, just go out and just unite our people to say, hey, let's get going. That's what we're all about.
And my closing question is, at this point with East Cleveland, you have to have some plans on the books to even implement it. And it does take, we understand, years to implement it. But do you feel that at this point we have plans on the books to implement, or you would like to see more plans to do what?
Our problem is in East Cleveland we have too much infighting in our government office. We don't have people that, like I said, have the best interests of the city. We have people that's fighting against each other, and they're not fighting for the city. I think they lost focus of who they represent. They represent the people of East Cleveland, not themselves. In order to be a servant in a political office, you are a servant. You work for the people of the city. It's not yours, it's not mine, but it's part of what we need to do. We need to make sure that we're not just putting people in office because they're your friend or your buddy, or we need people that really cares about the city and want to move the city forward. And that starts with us, and that we need to make sure that we hold our people accountable when we put them in these positions, and we're not doing that. We definitely need to do that.
And there's definitely a need for it. Brandon King?
You talked earlier about racism, and you talked about inequality separately.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to follow up on something you talked about, because I know over the years, maybe a handful of people who have worked for the steel mill.
Mm-hmm.
It's Middle Steel now.
It's ArcelorMittal.
ArcelorMittal.
Right, we're the largest in the world.
That's the German. Where's the guy from?
No, he's actually an Indian. He's the fifth richest man in the world.
Yeah, Middle.
Yeah.
Big bang.
Yeah,
Right.
Lakshmi Middle.
So if you were there for 33 years?
33 years
33
yesterday.
years. So you were there when it was
Republic Steel.
Republic Steel.
LTV.
LTV. That's the
Right.
one I was thinking of.
Yes.
So if you could go back to when you were talking about your racism,
Mm-hmm.
and how your position is not filled by a number of African Americans, if you could walk us through the different companies and then your rise to where you are, and talk about racism and inequality the whole while.
Well, I started in the steel mill at Republic Steel in 1979 as a laborer, coming out of the United States Army as a sergeant in the Army. The people in that I worked for at Republic Steel recognized that I had leadership qualities. So what happened was that after a year of 2 years of being a laborer, I started moving up on different jobs. and they started realizing that I had the potential to be a leader within the company. So I was actually laid off in 1982, and when they brought me back to work, they offered me a salary position job. And at that time, I was like, yeah, this is what I needed, because at the time, as a salary employee at Republic Steel was a great job. And I was given that opportunity as a young man. And I worked then as a labor foreman. I worked my way up through the mill in order to be a shift manager, but I've had a lot of racism dealing with that because of they didn't want blacks in the leadership positions. We had a lot of black people in certain departments that were foremen and supervisors, and most of our supervisors were white. And it was just been a struggle, you know, in order to advance. You always have to prove yourself. You can work the job forever, but they just don't want to give it to you. And it's just been a struggle. I mean, it's been, I watched how we had leaders that, superintendents that didn't want to give blacks anything. They didn't feel you were worthy of it. And you always got to prove yourself. I do that today, and I've been on my job 33 years, and I still have to prove myself every day. I have 33 guys that work up under me on a daily basis, 12 hours a day. And I'm always got to look over my shoulder, because I know there's somebody there that don't really want me to have the job. So that keep me on my toes and understand the importance of what it is when I talk to other young African-American men, black males. What they need to do is step up and be leaders, to be a supervisor, to give them something to push for, you know, to understand the importance that I'm setting a trend, but if I'm gone, who do we have to take my place? Who's going to fight for the people that we have that's coming up? The steel mill now, when I walked in, back when I was 22 years old, you didn't have to have a associate's degree. You could have a high school degree. You didn't have to have a bachelor's degree. And now that's one of the prerequisites, that you have to have associates or a 4-year degree in order to put in an application to be a laborer. And that's a way of stopping our people from getting jobs. They also put in restrictions to say that if you have a felon, that you will not be hired at our job, because they feel they don't want to hire felons. It doesn't matter what your felony is. That's a mark to stop you from being hired in a steel mill. It's just really sad that I guess the sanctions that they put on people to stop people from moving ahead is really sad. And I fight every day for to understand that it is that we just did a big hiring, and our hiring was for every 5 or 6 whites that you hired, you got maybe 1 black. And then we got as far as the last hiring that we would probably hire 10 or 15, and you would get 1 black and 1 female, black female, and then it's just really sad, you know. And I look at, I work for a very successful steel company, and had a very good life, but it's racism at my job every day.
So and I don't want to assume here, but it sounds like when you first started 33 something years ago, the job application.
You just could walk in. You can walk in off the street. If I said, Brandon, hey, come on, man, you want to work in the steel mill? I could take you right into the employment office and you'll be hired that day. It's not like that now. We have rigid testing. We do drug testing. We take Ramsey tests. They just so many stipulations put on jobs that you don't need this type of education for. You're actually overeducated for the jobs, but they claim that this is they put in saying that this is a more educated workforce. That's a way of keeping people out of the steel mill, because they put all these sanctions that, you know, it's almost like you're in a penitentiary, because now you can't walk in and get a job. And it's really sad. And I think the biggest thing that bothers me is our HR people, our head of our HR, are African American women, and they being, you know, kept from hiring their own people.
Wow.
You know.
Okay, that's unfortunate.
Oh, it definitely is. And I like to send this to my leader, but I'll probably be fired.
Say your Take with us.
Yeah, but I mean, it's been a struggle. It really is, and just to understand, it's hard when you sit up and tell a young man to take a salary position, and he realizes that as a laborer he'll make more money than any salary supervisor that he can, But you got to get the job, and they're not going to let you get the job. You look at a job when you're starting off at $18 to $20 an hour. There's a big difference than $5 or $10 at the casino parking cars and being a dealer and things like that. We don't have jobs that we have people that can really survive off of. We got a bunch of McDonald's jobs, but the steel mill and Ford and General Motors, these jobs aren't here anymore. They're just not here. I look, when I started at Republic Steel, I had the opportunity to go to Ford. I had General Motors and Reliance Electric. And I chose, because my whole family worked at Reliance Electric, I was going to the steel mill to make it on my own. Like I said, it's been a struggle, but I thank God every day for the struggle. Yeah.
Okay. That was basically my question.
I just want to say in closing that you had mentioned that your family was into the political scene when you were what age? Do you remember your family in the political scene?
I had to been about 9, 10 years old at the time.
And you followed their footsteps?
Yeah, I definitely did. Yeah, I think it's important that you have to invest in your community and you have to give of yourself in order to make your community better.
Can you remember a time where you were not involved in your community?
No, I've always been involved in my community. Whether it was here or when I was in the United States Army at Fort Campbell or Fort Bragg, I still feel like you had to invest in your community. You have to. If we don't, then we'll sit up and let our cities go down.
And I just want to say this in closing. I believe you have to stand for something or you will fall for anything. And I think that, what you mentioned with your family being in the political scene, as a young child, that helps you to understand what you need to do. And a lot of people are not exposed to that. They just think things happen, but it's a process and a procedure. Would you agree?
Well, yes, I do, and I think that our job is to tell people what is the procedure, what they need to do. In order to do anything, you have to get involved. You have to give of yourself in order to move forward. And we just need people to understand that you have to give up your time. And I think our problem is people don't understand the importance of 10, 15, 20 minutes of their time, what it can do. Give an hour, just give back. Take a day where you just donate your time. We have a lot of food banks. We have a lot of churches that need people that, just go. And I look at our church, we're the largest food bank probably in the area for giving out food. And if you ever sat down and came to our hunger center, you'll see all the people. We have a Russian community that people don't even know about that comes to our church constantly, and they're right up on the hill at the house nest is your biggest Russian community and a black community that people don't even know about.
What area are they in, you would say?
Up in Noble Road area, Owl's Nest, you have a lot of people there, and we have a large Russian population here in East Cleveland. But people don't know about it. They don't see them.
They don't see them. Well, Deacon Brown, I would like to state that I really appreciate you taking the opportunity to share with us about your family and your history and being a part of East Cleveland. And the area that you brought out that I enjoyed was mentioning your family was involved in the political process. So I can feel the passion that you had and how important it is to be a part of the political process. So I wanted to say that I really enjoyed the interview. It brings me great joy to just sit across from you and be here and having you to share with us your past, your present, and your future. And before we close out, is anything you want to look into the camera and say to your East Cleveland family that would be a last closing testimonial to you?
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to thank you for interviewing me, taking the time to interview me, to let me tell my story. It's important that we be able to tell our history and then let people assume our history. As we know that history sometimes is not our history, it's his history. for our people, and we need to stand up as our people and tell our history. And I would just say, look, stand up, let's unite, let's move our community forward, but we have to do it together. It takes the whole body in order to move forward. Let's get on the battlefield. Let's stand up. Let's put on our armor and go to work. You know, do what we need to do, and thank the Lord that we can do it. You know, and I think we just need to just stay focused and understand that it takes all of us. It takes a village. We've been talking about it for years. It takes a village to raise a community, or a family, or a person, and we used to do that. We have got away from that. You could tell your neighbor's child that get your butt in the house, you know, and don't be running up and down the street being destructive. We need to get back to that. We need to go back and don't be afraid to tell our young kids they need discipline. They want discipline, and we don't give it to them. We need to just stand up and just say, hey, let's do this. And we'll be surprised what we can do. We can move mountains if we stand together. And like I say, stand for something, or you'll fall for anything. And I just like to thank everybody just for the opportunity to tell my story. I just think it's awesome that we're able to do that. And I just thank y'all so much for letting me just sit here and take up your time. And it's a pleasure.
Thank you, Deacon Brown. We want to thank you and close it out.
All right, thank you.